On November 8, 1942, the Allied forces launched one of their most significant early campaigns of World War II, Operation Torch. This operation marked the first large-scale offensive by the United States and Great Britain against Nazi forces in Europe and North Africa. Torch was not only a crucial step toward the liberation of Europe but also a turning point in the war in the Mediterranean. It set the stage for the eventual invasion of Italy and the defeat of Germany in North Africa. In this article we will break down the strategic objectives, the key events and the lasting consequences of Operation Torch. The context: why North Africa? By 1942 the Axis powers, primarily Nazi Germany and Fascist Italy, controlled large swaths of North Africa. The German forces, led by Field Marshal Erwin Rommel, had been advancing through Egypt, threatening the Suez Canal, a vital link between the Mediterranean and the oil-rich Middle East. The British Eighth Army, under the leadership of General Bernard Montgomery, had stalled Rommel's advance at the Second Battle of El Alamein in late 1942, but the Germans remained entrenched in North Africa. Meanwhile, the Soviet Union was under heavy pressure on the Eastern Front, and the United States and Britain needed to open a second front to relieve some of that pressure and divert Axis resources from the Eastern Front. The strategic location of North Africa made it an ideal target for a combined American and British operation. The goals of Operation Torch. Operation Torch aimed to achieve several key objectives. Defeat Axis forces in North Africa. The Allied invasion of French-controlled North Africa was designed to push Axis forces out of the region, preventing them from advancing further into the Middle East. Secure the Mediterranean Sea. By gaining control of North Africa, the Allies could open up a direct route for attacks against southern Europe, particularly Italy, while securing vital shipping lanes in the Mediterranean. Support the Soviet Union. The Soviets had long been calling for a second front in Europe to relieve pressure from the Germans. Torch was part of the Allied commitment to help the USSR by drawing Axis forces away from the Eastern Front. Test American and British cooperation. The operation was also seen as a way to strengthen the relationship between the United States and the United Kingdom, which had different strategic priorities in the war. The plan: a three-pronged attack. The Allied strategy for Torch was a three-pronged assault on French North Africa, which included the territories of Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia. Western Task Force, Morocco led by General Dwight D. Eisenhower. The Americans would land in Morocco near the cities of Casablanca and Rabat. Central Task Force, Algeria. British forces, under the command of General Sir Kenneth Anderson, would land at Oran and Algiers, both in Algeria. Eastern Task Force, Tunisia. British forces, led by General Sir Bernard Montgomery, would attack Tunisia from the east, with the aim of cutting off Axis supply lines and forcing them into a retreat. Each landing site was carefully selected to ensure that the Allies could establish beachheads and advance quickly, securing key ports and supply lines. The coordination between American and British forces was paramount, given the different doctrines and command structures of the two nations. The invasion. Execution of the plan. Operation Torch began on November 8, 1942, with landings along the coast of North Africa. Morocco and Algeria, Western and Central Task Forces. The landings in Morocco and Algeria were largely successful, with minimal resistance from Vichy French forces, who controlled the region at the time. However, fighting was fierce in some areas, particularly around Casablanca and Algiers. Vichy French resistance. Initially there was resistance from the Vichy French who had collaborated with the Axis. However, the Allies attempted to avoid a full confrontation with the Vichy government. Eventually, after diplomatic negotiations, the Vichy forces ceased their resistance, and many French soldiers even joined the Allies. Tunisia. Eastern Task Force. Meanwhile, the British forces advanced into Tunisia, where they faced more serious resistance from German and Italian forces, who were trying to consolidate their positions in the region. The Battle of Kasserine Pass, fought between February 14 to 25, 1943, was a significant clash during this phase of the campaign, where the inexperienced American forces suffered a tactical defeat at the hands of Rommel's Afrika Korps. The aftermath and strategic impact. By May 1943, the Axis forces in North Africa had been defeated, and the Allies had secured control of the region. The capture of Tunis and Bizerta marked the end of the campaign. Over 250,000 Axis soldiers were taken prisoner, and the Allies had secured a foothold in North Africa, paving the way for future operations in southern Europe. The success of Operation Torch had several important effects. Boosted Allied morale. The successful landing and subsequent victories in North Africa gave the Allies their first significant victory in the European theater, boosting morale and demonstrating that victory over the Axis was possible. Soviet relief. The defeat of Axis forces in North Africa helped alleviate pressure on the Soviet Union by diverting German forces to a new front. While the Soviet Union was still fighting on the Eastern Front, the Axis was now engaged on multiple fronts, weakening their overall position. Foundation for the Italian campaign. After securing North Africa, the Allies would use the region as a launch point for the invasion of Sicily in July 1943 and the subsequent Italian campaign. This would be a significant step toward invading mainland Europe. Improved U.S.-British cooperation. Operation Torch marked the first time American and British forces fought side by side in a large-scale operation. The coordination and cooperation between the two powers during the campaign would help set the stage for larger Allied operations in Europe.